Good evening, leadership professionals. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Dennis Wilson, and I'm a junior at Troy University. Before I get started with my presentation this evening, I wanted to take the opportunity to thank each and every one of you for joining me on this leadership journey. I know I've learned a lot from your experiences, your feedback, your constructive criticism, and hopefully I was able to reciprocate that. You know, I look at one of the key tenets of leadership is the ability to learn from one another and to avoid those mistakes that, you know, we made previously. So thank you, and I really appreciate your support. So today I'll be giving you a presentation on the movie Remembering the Titans. And I gotta say, what a great movie. When you think about it from a leadership perspective, and just from the perspective of humanity and how we need to be kinder to one another, quite frankly. So today I'll talk about a little bit, you know, the coach's leadership style, both Coach Boone and Coach Yost. I'll explain to you why I thought those, why I honed in on describing their leadership this way. I'll talk about those attributes that I want to emulate and those that you know, I potentially want to avoid. I'll transition into discussing a little bit about Kelly's two-dimensional leadership fellowship model, and I'll describe a scene. And then we'll get into cultural diversity and organizational diversity and challenges and goals. And finally, I'll wrap that up on how both coaches, Yost and Boone's leadership style was instrumental in them, the Titans, achieving their goals. Okay, so core leadership style of Coach Boone. Unequivocally, he's an authoritarian leader. He's laser focused. He knows exactly what he wants to do. He already has a model in his mind on how he's going to achieve those goals. You could tell this very quickly right off the bat with his interaction with his players and his coaching staff. He let everybody know that he was in charge. It was his decision. It was his way or the highway. Coach Yost, on the other hand, I would describe his leadership more as a democratic style leadership. In part, he knew all these kids. He had been coaching these kids since they were young boys. You know, in one of the scenes, he said, "I feel like that they were my sons." So I think this gave him the ability to have a more relaxed style of leadership, especially when it came to dealing with conflict or issues. He had a connection with them on a personal level. You know, there's many attributes that both these gentlemen displayed that I want to emulate. You know, first and foremost, the moral courage that Coach Boone displayed. You know, here's a gentleman that was put in a situation where he was not set up to succeed. You know, it's troubling times in our country. Folks didn't want to integrate. So he was not set up for success. But he took on this challenge. Really, I don't think initially it was more for the love of the game. You know, he knew he was qualified to do this. And I think the benefits that came with that was he garnered a group of young men that were different, and he got them to become brothers, and that's an achievement well beyond itself, well beyond the state championship. You know, so that moral courage to go through and do this battle, I think, was paramount. Also, the way he treated everybody equal. Although he was not very nice about it, but he was consistent. And I think consistency in leadership and always kind of knowing where you stand is important as a leader, and particularly for your followers. Coach Yost, I liked his calmness. That's one of the things I want to emulate. I have a very stressful job, and I always try to take a couple deep breaths as things get stressful, because I know if I'm stressed out, that's just stress is going to roll downhill, and my team's going to be stressed out. So I always I like that calm demeanor about him. It's something I continue to work on. Now, as I transition to a little bit about Kelly's two-dimensional leadership, followership theory, or model, I should say, I want to describe the scene where Julius and Jerry are standing there in a confrontation at football camp. I think this was like the culminating moment between these two gentlemen that was able to push the team to the next level. Jerry as a team captain confronted Julius, telling him he was a great football player, that he could run circles around folks. And then Julius was, hey, I'm in it to get mine, because if you're the captain and you're not leading and you're not forcing your defense to block, then I'm gonna be the passive follower, so to speak. At the same time, as Jerry thought he was, being a leader, I would say he wasn't. But I think this was the point in their relationship that they both self-reflected, and at the end of the day, I think it was because of those two individuals that brought the team together. So, in essence, they were both wrong in their actions as a leader and as a follower, but they saw the need for self-reflection, and they changed the way they conducted themselves, one as individuals with each other, and the way they played the game on the field. As we look at the organizational cultural concerns that these gentlemen, both coaches, had to deal with, I like to go back to kind of like this week's video and what we learned about diversity and how it can either help or hurt an organization. This team was a diverse group of individuals. One of the main challenges with diversity is that most of them did not want to come together as a team. And I think that's part of just the times. But in some sense, I think they were visionaries as well. Dr. Klein discussed, in her interview that, leading teams of diverse individuals is very challenging. But one of the key leadership attributes is being very task-focused, somewhat authoritarian, to where you can kind of set the goals and boundaries. It doesn't leave a lot of room for ambiguity. It allows that diverse group to focus on the task instead of the static that's going around them. And I think Coach Boone did a really good job at this. He was focused on football. He was focused on the win. At the same time, he knew he had to bring these individuals together as a unit, as a team of brothers, to be able to achieve that. You saw that with his interaction with during football camp again, where they were going to do 3-a-days until everybody could tell somebody something about that other individual. But he was very specific in his task and the way he conducted that. So I think through that kind of no-nonsense, highly demanding leader focus, he was able to overcome that barrier of diversity. So again, what a great movie. And in closing, today I presented you with the core leadership styles of Coach Boone and Coach Yost. I explained why. I talked about those traits that I want to emulate. We talked about organizational cultural diversity. We talked about Dr. Kelly's two-dimensional model. So I leave you with with that, and I appreciate everybody's feedback. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the term, and pending any questions, that's all I have. Have a great evening.